My brother tried to frame me for drug dealing and my parents told me to take the fall for him. Hi, I'm Mark, 34, and last month my life blew up because my own brother decided I was the most convenient place to hide his mess. Here's the part that matters right away. My brother tried to frame me for drug dealing, and my parents told me to take the fall because a record wouldn't hurt me the way it would hurt him. I work as a high-voltage tower rigger. The guys you see hanging off steel spines along highways, 300 to 400 feet in the air, clipped to nothing but rope and faith. The pay is solid, about $61 an hour, brutal hours, brutal weather, but there's one absolute rule, one positive drug test and you're done. Not suspended. Not warned. Blacklisted. Industry-wide. No appeal, no second chances. Because of that, I'm boringly clean. No weed. No pills. No. Just this once. The wildest thing in my body is protein powder and caffeine that could strip paint. My brother Evan, 29, couldn't be more different. Finance degree. Junior investment associate. Always talking like he was one promotion away from running the company. Recently engaged to a woman who posted daily gratitude smoothies on Instagram and called it wellness. My parents worshipped him like he'd discovered fire. Me? I was doing fine for myself, which was their polite way of saying manual labor doesn't impress us. Everything detonated on a Thursday at 4:45 a.m. I was loading gear into a company truck at a job site in South Dakota, double-checking harnesses, when my site supervisor, ex-Army, quiet guy named Ross, walked up with his clipboard held tight against his chest. Office trailer. Now. That tone? You don't ignore it. Inside the trailer, there was a speakerphone already on the table. Ross shut the door behind us. The voice that came through was calm, corporate, and absolutely lethal. Good morning. This is safety and compliance. We received an anonymous report alleging impaired behavior during a safety-critical climb. I actually laughed at first. Like a reflex. Wrong reaction. Effective immediately. She continued, You're being placed on unpaid administrative leave pending a full drug screening. Transportation has been arranged. My stomach dropped through the floor. I hadn't done anything wrong. But in my line of work, an accusation is guilt until a lab says otherwise. One phone call had just frozen my paycheck, my credentials, and my reputation. I asked the only question that mattered. Who made the report? There was a pause. Just long enough to tell me everything. That information is confidential. When I walked out of that trailer, Ross didn't say much, just clapped my shoulder and muttered, You're clean. This'll clear. He meant it. But as I got into the company car heading to the testing clinic, my phone started buzzing nonstop. Calls from my mom. Calls from my dad. 9 missed calls from Evan. And that's when I knew, before anyone admitted anything, that this wasn't an accident. By the time the clinic finished sealing my sample like it was nuclear material, I'd already done the math. A normal week on this project was 6 11-hour days. With overtime, per diem, and hazard pay, I was clearing about $5,800 a week before taxes. Not buy a yacht money, but pay bills, save, breathe money. And now, because of an anonymous call, I was at zero until a lab decided I deserved to eat. The company driver dropped me at the motel and left like I had a contagious disease. I sat on the bed, stared at the ugly carpet pattern, and finally checked my phone. 26 missed calls. Most of the texts were fake concern. Call me ASAP. Are you okay? Please answer. But one from my mom hit different. It's not what you think. We can explain. That phrase, we can explain, only shows up when someone already knows they're guilty. I called her back. She answered on the first ring, already crying. Not the quiet, I'm worried about you cry. The messy, panicked cry people do when they know the story is about to turn against them. Mark, baby, are you okay? We heard what happened. My throat went tight. How did you hear? A pause. Too long. Evan told us. He's so worried. Of course he was. Mom, I said slowly. Did you know about this before today? She didn't answer the question. That told me everything. Come over for dinner, she said. We need to talk as a family. The way she said as a family felt like a threat disguised as a hug. So I drove home. My parents' house was the same suburban museum it always was, beige siding, trimmed bushes, lawn so perfect it looked photoshopped. Evan's car was in the driveway, my dad's sedan next to it. Like a little family reunion for my downfall. When I walked in, nobody greeted me. No. Hi. No. How are you? No. We're sorry. Just tension in the air so thick it felt like humidity. My mom was in the kitchen wiping a spotless counter like she was trying to erase reality. My dad sat at the table with a yellow legal pad and reading glasses, his "I'm about to solve you" outfit. Evan was on the couch, hunched over his phone, pretending he wasn't there. I stood in the doorway. All right, I said. Who did it? Dad didn't even flinch. Sit down. I'm good. His eyes sharpened. This is serious. Sit. I sat, because I wanted to hear the lie properly. Mom turned around, eyes red. Honey, we need to talk about what happened. You mean the part where I got yanked off a job site and forced into a drug test because someone said I was high while climbing? Dad held up a hand. We know you're upset. I'm not upset. I'm unpaid. He waved that away like it was an inconvenience. You'll be cleared. That's not what we're worried about. I stared at him. Then what are you worried about? Silence. Mom's voice dropped to a whisper. We're worried about Evan. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so predictable it felt scripted. Dad leaned forward, lowering his voice like he was negotiating a hostage situation. He made a mistake. A serious one. But it's fixable if we handle it correctly. I turned to Evan. What mistake? He still wouldn't look at me. Mom finally broke. He was holding something for a friend, she said. And he panicked. The words landed like a brick. I sat back in my chair slowly. Define something. Dad's jaw clenched. Mom sniffled. Evan stared at his phone like it was going to save him. And then my mom said it, the way people confess to murder when they're hoping you'll just help bury the body. He put it in your truck. My blood went cold. I pictured Evan at my apartment earlier that week, showing up unannounced, asking to borrow my truck then. Just hanging out, while I slept before my early shift. I remembered waking up and leaving before dawn, assuming he'd left like a normal person. Now I realized what he'd really done. He didn't borrow my truck. He used it as a stash box. And the anonymous report suddenly made perfect sense. He didn't just hide his problem in my life. He tried to trigger a search that would point the blame at me. I looked straight at Evan. Did you make the call? His mouth opened, then closed. Dad answered for him. That doesn't matter now. Oh, it mattered. Because then my dad said the sentence that rewired my brain permanently. Mark, you need to take responsibility so this doesn't ruin his future. I blinked. You want me to confess? Mom started crying harder. Just tell your company it was yours, that you made a mistake. Dad nodded like it was a reasonable business plan. A record won't hurt you the way it would hurt him. You can find another job. Evan can't lose everything. That's when I stood up so fast my chair scraped the floor. No. Mom's head snapped up. What? No, I repeated. I'm not confessing to something I didn't do. Dad's face hardened. You're being selfish. I stared at him. He tried to destroy my life, and I'm selfish? Evan finally spoke, voice small and shaky. Why are you doing this to me? That's the moment I realized something important. My brother didn't see me as family. He saw me as a spare tire. And my parents agreed. I walked to the door. Dad's voice followed me. If you walk out, you're on your own. I turned the knob and said, I've been on my own for years. You just didn't notice because I never asked you for anything. And I left. In the car, hands shaking on the wheel, I didn't call HR. I didn't call a friend. I called a criminal defense attorney, because I suddenly understood something my parents didn't. This wasn't family drama anymore. This was a setup. The lawyer's name was Daniel Price, mid-40s, calm voice, the kind of guy who sounds bored even when he's saving your life. He listened without interrupting while I laid everything out: the job, the anonymous report, my brother using my truck, the family meeting where they asked me to confess. When I finished, there was a short silence. Then he said, Okay. First thing, sign the retainer I'm emailing you. Second thing, do not talk to your family again. Third, do not drive that truck. How bad is this? I asked. It's not bad, he said. It's dangerous. Your brother escalated this from stupid to criminal, and panicked people don't stop digging when the first hole doesn't work. I signed the retainer that night. $2,300 up front. Hurt to spend, but cheaper than prison. And good thing I did, because less than 2 hours later there was a knock on my motel door. I looked through the peephole. 2 cops. One older, thick neck, hand hovering near his belt. One younger, buzz-cut, alert eyes. Not aggressive, but ready. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. Evening, the older one said. We got a tip about controlled substances possibly being stored in a white Silverado registered to a telecom company. Mind if we ask you a few questions? Daniel's voice echoed in my head like a drill sergeant. 1 sentence. Then shut up. I want my attorney present for any questioning. The older cop's eyebrows jumped. The younger one shifted his weight. You're not under arrest, the older guy said, suddenly friendlier. Just following up. I said nothing. Well, the younger one added. If you've got nothing to hide, this'll take 2 minutes. Still nothing. Mind if we take a quick look at the truck? No, I said. Clear. Calm. The older cop tilted his head. No, you don't mind? Or no, we can't? I don't consent to any searches. That killed the mood. The older cop exhaled slowly, annoyed. All right. Stay available. We may follow up. Am I being detained? No. Then I'm going back inside. I opened the door, stepped in, locked it, and leaned against it while my heart tried to punch its way out of my chest. I waited until I heard their footsteps fade before calling Daniel. Good, he said after I explained. Perfect. They were fishing. No consent, no statements, no problem. What happens now? Now we stay ahead of your brother. The next morning my company called. Negative across all panels. Cleared. Back on the roster. Report marked unfounded. Relief washed over me, briefly. Because while my career was safe, my brother was still walking around with drugs, still desperate, still dangerous. And then something in me snapped, not in rage, but in clarity. If he wanted to involve the police so badly, so be it. I called the non-emergency line. I need to report someone who admitted to transporting controlled substances. They asked for a name. I gave them my brother's. 2 hours later, my phone rang. Sir, this is Officer Martinez. We located the vehicle you described. During a traffic stop, the driver showed signs of impairment. A K-9 alerted on the vehicle. We found controlled substances consistent with distribution. I closed my eyes. He's in custody. That was the moment everything flipped. My phone didn't explode right away. It simmered, like the calm before a storm that's already decided it hates you. Then, about an hour later, it rang. Dad. I didn't answer. Then Mom. Then Evan's number, probably from the back of a squad car. I turned the phone face down and went out on my balcony with a soda, watching the sky turn orange like nothing in the world was wrong. At 7:42 p.m., someone started pounding on my apartment door like they were trying to knock it off the hinges. I checked the peephole. Both parents. I opened the door, and Dad pushed past me before I could even speak. "What the hell did you do?" he shouted. "I reported a crime," I said calmly. "The same way someone reported me." Mom grabbed my arm, nails digging in. "They're saying he had drugs in his car. They arrested him like he's some criminal." "He is a criminal," I replied. "He just finally got treated like one." Dad spun on me. "You called the cops on your own brother?" "I called the cops on someone who tried to frame me for drug possession. The fact that we shared DNA doesn't make that okay." Mom's voice went high and frantic. "They're talking about felony charges. Bail could be $60,000. We don't have that kind of money. That sounds like a him problem." Dad stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You need to fix this." I stared at him. "How?" "Tell them the drugs were yours. Say you asked him to hold them." I actually laughed. "So your solution is I commit a felony?" Mom sobbed. "Please. We're begging you." We co-signed his condo. "If he goes to prison, we lose everything." And there it was again. Not love. Not justice. Assets. "I'm not bailing him out," I said. Dad's face twisted. "You think you're better than him?" "I think not dealing drugs makes me smarter." That was when Dad grabbed my shoulder. Hard. "Get your hand off me," I said. He didn't. So I shoved him back. "Get out." Mom gasped. Dad stared at me like he'd never seen me before. "If you testify against him," Dad said quietly, "you're dead to us." I didn't hesitate. Good. Makes this easier. They left screaming and crying, and for the first time in my life, I locked the door on them and felt light. Over the next 3 weeks, I cut every financial tie I had. Phone plan, gone. Streaming services, cancelled. Home security system I'd been quietly paying for, shut off. Electric bill in my name from temporary help, transferred back. No announcements. No speeches. Just consequences. Then the prosecutor called. They wanted my documentation. My timeline. My testimony. I gave them everything. Evan's lawyer tried to paint me as jealous, resentful, bitter. The prosecutor shut that down with lab results, call logs, and body cam footage. 6 weeks later, Evan took a plea. No prison, but a felony, probation, and a career-ending record. His fiancée left him within days. My parents lost the condo. And 3 months later, they came back. All 3 of them. Together. I was home on a rare Saturday off when the gate buzzer rang. "Security," the voice said. "You've got visitors. Your parents, and your brother." I almost laughed. They'd coordinated. Planned it. Probably rehearsed what to say in the car like it was a hostage negotiation. "Let them in," I said. 5 minutes later there was a knock. I opened the door. They looked smaller. Mom had aged fast, gray creeping into her hair, eyes permanently swollen. Dad's expensive sedan was gone. They'd arrived in a dented old compact that smelled like defeat. Evan looked thin, hollowed out, the kind of tired you only get from probation meetings and rejection emails. "Can we come in?" Mom asked. I stepped aside. Nobody sat. This wasn't a visit. This was a last stand. Dad cleared his throat. "We came to apologize." I crossed my arms. "Go on." Mom broke immediately. "We were wrong. What we asked you to do, it was unforgivable. We were scared." "You weren't scared," I said. "You were calculating." Dad jumped in. "We're your family." "Families forgive." "Forgive what, exactly?" I asked. "Trying to destroy my career? Asking me to confess to a felony?" Evan finally spoke. "I've changed. I've had time to think. You changed because you got caught." Mom stepped toward me. I stepped back. "We're going to lose the house," she said. The bank wants $42,000 to stop foreclosure. There it was. Dad's voice went cold. So you're just going to watch us lose everything? I'm going to live my life. You're the ones who showed up begging. Mom collapsed onto my floor, crying. Full body sobs. I washed. Not with anger, with clarity. I walked to my desk, pulled out my checkbook, and wrote a check. I handed it to her. She looked down. $1.00. That's my contribution. I said. You raised me for 18 years. Here's $1 for your trouble. Dad's face turned red. You smug. Don't. I cut in. You don't get to be angry. You tried to ruin my life to protect an investment. Mom crumpled the check and threw it at me. I hope you're happy watching your family suffer. She screamed. I sleep great. I said. No guilt. No stress. They left. And I locked the door behind them. After they left, the apartment felt quiet. Not sad quiet. Clean quiet. I picked up the crumpled $1 check from the floor, smoothed it out, took a photo of it, and saved it in my phone under a folder labeled Receipts. Because if there's one thing my family taught me, it's that people rewrite history when it suits them. An hour later, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Mom, you're making a huge mistake. Family helps family. I stared at it for a long second, then typed one sentence. Family doesn't frame family for felonies. Blocked. Dad's number blocked. Evans blocked. Every variation, every new attempt. 3 months passed. Work was steady again. New sites. New crews. Montana, Wyoming, places where cell service was bad enough that drama couldn't reach me. I was saving money, sleeping better, laughing more than I had in years. Then my aunt called. They lost the house, she said quietly. Foreclosure went through. They're in a 2-bedroom apartment now. Your mom's working full-time. Your dad's doing contract work. Okay, she sighed. I just thought you should know. I appreciate the update. We hung up. A week later, Evan tried to add me on social media from a new account. Different name, same face. Blocked. Months passed. Then more. Eventually, the noise stopped. No calls. No texts. No guilt trips. No emergencies. And that's when I realized something important. They didn't miss me. They missed the safety net. I wasn't their son or brother. I was their contingency plan. And contingency plans get blamed when the investment fails. I kept climbing towers. Kept building a life where my name meant something clean. Where my future didn't depend on lying for someone else. Which brings me to the part everyone asks about. Do I regret it? People ask me that question like it's supposed to hurt. Do you regret turning your back on your family? Usually said with that soft, judgmental tone, like I kicked a puppy instead of refusing to confess to a felony. Here's the honest answer. I don't regret what I did. I regret how long it took me to see them clearly. I replayed the whole thing 1,000 times while hanging from steel at 350 feet, wind howling so loud you can't hear your own thoughts unless they're loud too. The signs were always there. When Evan screwed up as a teenager, it was, boys will be boys. When I messed up, it was, you should have known better. When Evan succeeded, it was destiny. When I succeeded, it was luck. When he broke the law, it was a mistake. When I refused to cover for it, I was selfish. I wasn't the golden child. I was the buffer. The one who absorbed consequences so the favorite didn't have to. Once I saw that, the guilt vanished. A few months later, I got called in to testify officially at Evan's sentencing review. Just to confirm the timeline again. His lawyer didn't even try to argue this time. The record was airtight. Evan wouldn't look at me. Not angry. Not apologetic. Just empty. That was the moment I knew something else too. If I'd taken the fall like they asked, Evan wouldn't have learned anything. He would have done it again, to someone else, or to me, later. I didn't ruin his life. I stopped him from ruining mine. When I walked out of that courthouse, I felt lighter than I had in years. No more calls to brace for. No more emergencies that weren't mine. No more being the strong one who quietly bleeds so others stay clean. I built something better instead. And that's where this ends. About 6 months after everything settled, I was halfway up a tower in Utah, clipped in, watching the sun come up over miles of empty land. No sirens. No phones buzzing. No one asking me to sacrifice myself. Just this once. Just quiet. That's when it finally hit me: peace isn't loud. It doesn't come with apologies or dramatic reconciliations. It shows up when the people who hurt you stop having access to your life. I didn't rebuild bridges. I didn't wait for closure. I just kept going. I bought a newer truck, one that no one else has a spare key to. I moved apartments. Changed routines. Built a life where my name, my work, and my record are mine alone. Sometimes people still ask, what if they change? And I always think the same thing. Change doesn't erase choices. Love doesn't require self-destruction. And family isn't supposed to cost you your future. My brother made his bet. My parents backed it. I just refused to pay for it. And that decision, walking away, saying no, choosing myself, that's the only reason I'm still standing here today. Clean record. Clear conscience. And no one left who thinks my life is expendable. That's not revenge. That's survival.